listening to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
Today I had to make one of the toughest decisions of my professional career. Today I terminated Phil Brooks, CM Punk, for cause. This stems from a backstage incident at AEW All In last Sunday. The incident was regrettable, and it endangered people backstage. That includes the production staff, the people who help put the show on every week, innocent people who had nothing to do with it. I've been going to wrestling shows for over 30 years. I've been producing them on this network for nearly 4 years. Never in all that time have I ever felt, until last Sunday, that my security, my safety, my life was in danger at a wrestling show. I don't think anybody should feel that way at work. I don't think the people I work with should feel that way. And I had to make a very difficult choice today. It came at the recommendation of a discipline committee here in AEW, as well as outside legal counsel, who delivered a unanimous recommendation. And I have followed up on that recommendation. I'm sorry to any fans who are upset by this. I'm sorry to anyone who's upset by this. Despite that, we're going to have a great show tonight on Collision, and we're going to have a great AEW All Out pay-per-view tomorrow here in Chicago. Last weekend was the greatest weekend in AEW history. This is the greatest week in AEW history. We're going to continue the great momentum here tonight on Collision and tomorrow night on All Out pay-per-view.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast. And as you guys just heard, those were the comments from Mr. Tony Khan himself, the president and CEO, the head of creative, whatever you want to call him, from All Elite Wrestling, announcing the termination of one CM Punk. What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Rick right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast with a WrestleHavoc Podcast Extra discussing the official termination of CM Punk. It is official. CM Punk has been fired from All Elite Wrestling. Honestly, when I first got the news, I was absolutely shocked. Was I angry about the situation? Or was I angry about the announcement of the official firing of CM Punk? No, I was not. I was shocked, but I was not angry. Because if you really think about it, a lot of the situations that really happened in AEW throughout the past year, think about this. It was almost, I believe, a year ago today that Brawl Out happened. And a year later, Punk has gotten fired. You know, it was August 20th, 2021. We welcomed CM Punk with open arms. The rumors were swirling everywhere about CM Punk making his official return to professional wrestling after a 7-year hiatus. And man, I can remember that day like it was yesterday. I can remember everybody talking about CM Punk 24/7, 365. Keep in mind, this was the day before SummerSlam, and I believe SummerSlam was in Las Vegas that year. This was the day before SummerSlam, and SmackDown had the go-home show. But everybody wasn't talking about SummerSlam. Nobody was talking about SmackDown. Everybody was talking about what was going to happen at the United Center, in a sold-out United Center, at 10 p.m. on TNT on AEW Rampage, with the supposed arrival of CM Punk. And the return happened. The crowd in Chicago popped. It was probably one of the loudest pops that I have ever seen in professional wrestling. We had great moments with CM Punk. He had a feud with Eddie Kingston. Of course, his first match in AEW back in the wrestling business was against Darby Allin. He had a phenomenal feud with MJF. But then with the Hangman Page stuff, that's where things started to really take a downward spiral. And I'm not going to go in depth with all the drama. You guys know the situation stemming from Hangman Page, CM Punk, and the media scrum incident that went down last year at Brawl Out. This situation, honestly, if I were to really summarize, the termination of CM Punk, it's basically down to one thing, and that is Tony Khan grew a fucking set of balls. This man had the balls to fire CM Punk because of the actions that went down at All In. And what's funny is that I see a lot of people blaming the Elite because CM Punk has been fired from AEW. At the end of the day, all this drama going on is everybody's fault. It is CM Punk's fault. It is the Elite's fault, even though they were not involved in any way, shape, or form regarding the Jack Perry situation. That is a completely different situation. Jack Perry is at fault for what he did as well. And Tony Khan, at the end of the day, is at fault for really letting this whole situation spear out of control. This whole situation could have been easily talked through, and none of this bullshit would have happened. At a time where AEW is selling 81,000 seats at Wembley Stadium, all in London, their biggest show ever. Nobody was talking about All In throughout this whole week. Everybody was talking about the backstage drama regarding CM Punk and Jack Perry. And that is something that really should not happen in AEW. It is a disgrace, it is a shame, and it's an embarrassment to the company as a whole. And if you really think about it, at the end of the day, even though I'm a big CM Punk fan and I was one of the people that wanted him back in the company, I think Tony Khan letting go of CM Punk was the right decision to make, unfortunately. AEW posted a press release and a statement from the company and by Tony Khan yesterday on Twitter. A statement from All Elite Wrestling and Tony Khan. All Elite Wrestling has terminated the wrestler and employment agreements between Phillip Brooks, CM Punk, and AEW with cause, effective immediately. The termination was confirmed today by Tony Khan, CEO, General Manager, and Head of Creative of AEW. The termination follows a week-long internal investigation of an incident occurring backstage at AEW All in London on Sunday, August 27th. Following the investigation, the AEW Discipline Committee, I didn't know that there was a discipline committee in the company, despite with all the drama going on. The AEW Discipline Committee met and later convened with outside legal counsel before making an unanimous recommendation to Tony Khan that CM Punk to be terminated with cause. Khan offered the following statement, in a quote, "Phil played an important role within AEW, and I thank him for his contributions. The termination of his AEW contracts," this is the key word here. Instead of saying the termination of his AEW contract, he said the termination of his AEW contracts. That is a very interesting statement because he not only was a talent, but of course he was kind of like, I don't want to say the head of creative at AEW Collision, but he was kind of really running AEW Collision if you really think about it. And a lot of people are starting to speculate that he had a manager's contract. Who knows? But that's very interesting to say the least. The termination of his AEW contracts with cause is ultimately my decision and mine alone. Of course, I wish I didn't have to share this news, which may come to as a disappointment to many of our fans. Nevertheless, I'm making the decision in the best interests of the many amazing people who make AEW possible every week. Our talent, our staff, venue operators, and many others whose efforts are unsung but essential to bringing our fans great shows on television and at arenas and stadiums throughout the world. That was the statement by Tony Khan. Then, of course, we had Collision last night, which I did not watch, but I saw a couple of highlights about. And before Collision went on the air, one of the first things that Tony Khan did was go out on the stage in front of a very, very, very pissed off Chicago crowd. And from the words that you heard from Tony Khan at the top of this video, he basically gave you a 10-minute speech or a 10-minute kind of lecture about what really went down between him and CM Punk. According to the Wrestling Observer, in a quote by Dave Meltzer, he stated, and I quote, "But, quote-unquote, lunging was again too far kind. If you saw the actual wording of what was said, quote-unquote, lunging was toning it down." There's a lot of stories coming out that CM Punk lunged at Tony Khan, and now Dave Meltzer is saying that lunging is a little bit of a too kind word. And it probably looks like the situation was way worse than we thought. Of course, at the top of this video, Tony Khan stated, and I quote, "Never have I ever felt that my security, my safety, and my life was in danger at a wrestling show." That is crazy, to say the least, at the end of the day. What's crazy about this whole Jack Perry and CM Punk situation is that there's been a lot of different conflicting stories regarding who did what, who threw the first punch, who was in the wrong, who was in the right. At the end of the day, everybody was in the wrong. But the thing about it is even though Jack Perry is 100% in the wrong, I talked about this. I 100% talked about this on the episode 26 of the WrestleHavoc Podcast, where I talked about the suspensions of CM Punk and Jack Perry. CM Punk would be in a scenario in which he would be right about a situation, but his actions would turn him immediately in the wrong. And unfortunately, with all the conflicting reports that we have been reading all over on the internet and all over social media, one of the more consistent aspects of all of those conflicting reports was that CM Punk was the one that threw the first shot at Jack Perry. And if that is the case, 100% CM Punk is in the wrong. We are not denying what Jack Perry did. 100% Jack Perry was definitely in the wrong. And if you really look back at the situation, Jack Perry was exactly pissed off the same way that CM Punk was pissed off last year. Because Jack Perry was pissed off about the way the stories handled the whole Glass story and how they perceived Jack Perry to be. Punk was angry about the same thing. Jack Perry took that same model that CM Punk took and did the exact same thing that CM Punk did. This is absolutely just fucking crazy. And the whole story of CM Punk lunging at Tony Khan is another crazy story. Who knows what the hell happened? The fact that Tony Khan managed to say that, you know, his life was in danger, never in his wildest dreams that his life was in danger at a wrestling show. I never thought I'd see the day I would hear that from Tony Khan. Not only that, Tony Khan had the balls to come out right before Collision in front of the entire angry Chicago crowd and basically explained why he fired CM Punk. That takes balls. That is absolutely insane to think, if you really think about it. And the thing about the whole thing is we all love Tony Khan. I think without Tony Khan, this AEW wouldn't be as successful as it already is. But one of the things that we have been criticizing, and rightfully so, of Tony Khan was the way he handles a lot of these situations. And unfortunately, a lot of these situations came in to bite him in the ass because he held off these situations for way too long. And that is something as a promoter you should not do. If there is a major situation going on, the number one thing as a promoter that you should do is act quickly. And unfortunately, Tony Khan did not do that with Brawl Out. And unfortunately, this whole situation escalated the way that it did. But one thing I will give props to Tony Khan was the balls to come out in front of the Chicago crowd and really take all of the heat. Not only that, for having the balls to fire CM Punk. I said on episode 26 of the podcast that I didn't think CM Punk was going to get fired. Clearly, I was fucking wrong. Tony Khan, if CM Punk got terminated with cause from his contract or contracts, clearly something is up, and clearly the footage that apparently Fightful has stated that there is footage because there's cameras all over Wembley Stadium about the incident that went down. Clearly it shows CM Punk clearly did something wrong. And that is just crazy to think. This whole situation is just, it could have ended a different way. Punk's run in AEW could have ended a different way, and unfortunately it had to end due to backstage stupidity. It had to happen over fucking Glass, over Jack Perry. You know, we've been hearing all of these stories of CM Punk banning people from Collision. Ryan Nemeth would tweet out a tweet that would be, in a way, kind of anti-CM Punk, and then he would be called in for AEW Collision, and then all of a sudden, once he enters the building, he is banned from the show. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that is absolutely fucking wrong. Being banned by Collision is absolutely ridiculous. The way Punk handles situations, like going after Jack Perry and really just beating the hell out of Jack Perry, even though Jack Perry was 100% in the wrong, I think CM Punk was in the wrong in that whole situation. Like, it's just a fucking mess. It really is just a fucking mess. But there's one thing that we can say about CM Punk and the termination of CM Punk. It's the fact that this is basically a message to the entire AEW locker room, because we all know Tony Khan is a nice guy. But I think he's realized that with the experiment, or the now failed experiment, of CM Punk, he really needs to take action in a lot of these situations. And I believe, in my opinion, this is kind of a warning to the entire AEW roster. It doesn't matter if you are a big enough draw or the biggest draw in the entire company. If you do shit that's out of line, you're out the fucking door. And that is exactly what we saw with CM Punk. You had people on the internet after, they were talking shit about Tony Khan not being a boss and not firing CM Punk. Those same people, think about this. Think about the hypocrisy. Those same people were angry at the fact, the ones that called Tony Khan a mark and not a boss for not firing CM Punk, those same people specifically stated him firing CM Punk was the worst decision he could possibly make. Which is funny to me, because these are the same people that stated that Tony Khan should be a boss, me included. And I hate this decision, but I understand why CM Punk made this decision. It's because he wanted to make the locker room happy. And not only that, he wanted the locker room environment to just, kind of tone it down and all the drama just to go away. That is basically the only reason. And not only that, CM Punk 100% was in breach of contract. Now, he was fired with cause. Could this be a scenario? Now, Punk is officially terminated from All Elite Wrestling. I guarantee you, CM Punk, one of these days, is going to break his silence. Just like when he walked out on WWE back in January of 2014. Later on, that same year, CM Punk went on Cole Cabana's podcast and absolutely shredded the WWE. Could he be doing the same thing in AEW? Or, breaking his silence on AEW? Who knows? He could remain silent. Who knows? Is CM Punk's wrestling career officially over? We basically technically saw his last match at All In London against Samoa Joe. Honestly, it was a great match, but nobody's going to be talking about that match because, again, everybody's just going to be talking about the fight that he had with Jack Perry. Is he going to go to the WWE? That's another question. Is he going to go to the WWE? I mean, WWE has had times where they brought back wrestlers that at one time burned bridges with them. Could that be the case with CM Punk? I have no idea. But if you really think about it, there's a lot of guys in the WWE locker room that just do not like CM Punk. Granted, WWE is a way more professional environment than AEW. I think we can all agree with that. But there's a lot of people that just do not like CM Punk in AEW. We got Seth Rollins. We got Kevin Owens. We got Roman Reigns, who's went on record and stated that he doesn't like CM Punk, but he's willing to work with him. Seth Rollins, called CM Punk a cancer, next to Nick Hausman, of all people. He called CM Punk a cancer. I don't know, man. It's very interesting it's very interesting, but do I see him going back to the WWE? No, I don't. If there's any way that he could possibly come back to the WWE, it would possibly be for a Hall of Fame induction. That is it. And even if he did go back to the WWE, the locker room would probably just look at CM Punk and be like, holy fucking shit, why is this guy here? That is just my opinion on the situation, but I may be totally wrong. But this was very, very, very shocking news that dropped yesterday. And it was very smart of Tony Khan for this news to drop a day before All Out, which is crazy to think. But they did it anyway. And from what it looks like, the crowd in Chicago, as of right now, they are hijacking the show, because I'm actually recording this half an hour before All Out. But we got an extra report on Wrestling House. This was according to Wrestling House. A sit-down with members of the Elite, CM Punk and Tony Khan, was scheduled to take place last week ahead of AEW All In, but it was called off at the last minute by the Elite's camp. It was going to take place in Atlanta and was intended to bury the hatchet between both sides ahead of the pay-per-view. The cancellation of it appears have to have added on Punk's overall frustrations. I don't know, man. Punk wants to bury the hatchet, but the thing about it is he wants to bury the hatchet, but If he doesn't get his way, he's just going to go out and do fucking crazy shit. You know, what's funny about the whole thing is that he was upset that Jack Perry kind of went off script in the match against Took and screamed at the camera, "It's real glass, cry me a river." Meanwhile, Punk did the exact same thing last year. So, again, cry me a river. Another thing, I know a lot of people are saying, well, if CM Punk's fired, why didn't they fire Jack Perry? Well, number one, it's real simple. Jack Perry does not have a history with drama with AEW. And not only that, this is Jack Perry's first strike. This was CM Punk's second chance. CM Punk had a second chance. For fuck's sakes, they gave him his own show. Think about that. They gave him his own show, Collision. And he blew it because of his own actions. He did not learn from his mistakes. You can say CM Punk is right in a sense of AEW is run by children. You can say that. But at the same time, you also have to admit the fact that CM Punk also acted like children because he did the exact same actions that he claims other people did to him. That is just the truth of the matter. I see this video roaming around about the Young Bucks. Yes, the Young Bucks did show up on Collision last night at the United Center. And there's a video roaming around of Matt Jackson basically just hopping around the ring, victory lapping around the ring. And a lot of people were upset about that whole thing. And I tell people, number one, if you're blaming the Elite on getting CM Punk fired from AEW, clearly the whole firing of CM Punk did not have to do with the Elite. If anything, the Jack Perry and CM Punk thing had nothing to do with the Elite. That only had to do with Jack Perry and CM Punk. That was it. And if you're blaming the Elite on that, clearly you are blinded by hatred. Not only that, if you really think about it, just think about this for a second, right? The Elite, say what you want with the Elite, but the Elite, if it wasn't for the Elite and Tony Khan, they were single-handedly responsible for giving Punk the platform to come out of retirement after a 7-year hiatus. Okay? And now Punk is having beef with all these other people, but then you have all these other veterans like Sting and Christian Cage in the locker room, and they don't cause any problems, but why is Punk causing all of these problems? I talked about this on episode 26 as well. If Edge eventually shows up in AEW, think about this. If Edge shows up in AEW, and within a year of his run, we do not hear any stories about backstage issues with Edge and the younger talent backstage at AEW, what does that say about CM Punk at the end of the day? Clearly shows that CM Punk was the problem at the end of the day. You can say CM Punk was right about calling everybody children, but you also have to acknowledge the actions of CM Punk. Okay? CM Punk getting terminated, I hate it as a fan. And I will still be a fan of CM Punk. But I do see a bullshitter when I see one. And unfortunately, CM Punk is that bullshitter. And unfortunately, CM Punk got rightfully fired by Tony Khan. It is an insane situation. It is an unfortunate situation. But it was a situation and it was a scenario that really needed to be dealt with. And Tony Khan, finally, as a boss, put his foot down. We've all wanted Tony Khan to finally be a boss, and he did, so we can't complain. Tony put his foot down and eventually terminated CM Punk. Do I see CM Punk possibly suing AEW for all the money that he pretty much lost after this termination? I don't know, man. Could we be seeing that? I mean, CM Punk is the type of guy that if he doesn't get his way, he will fucking send you a goddamn lawsuit. He is that type of guy. He don't give a fuck. But we're going to have to wait and see, man. It's very interesting. These are very interesting developments, but I wanted to come out with this extra because I wanted to give you guys my thoughts on CM Punk. And another thing that I wanted to mention, with CM Punk gone from the roster, think about this. With CM Punk gone from the AEW roster and gone from the company as a whole, think about this. There's not going to be a lot of drama happening in the locker room, I suppose. But if the same amount of drama that we have been seeing for the past year continues to happen, even after CM Punk is gone, you not only prove CM Punk right, but also at the end of the day, we're not going to be blaming CM Punk for this. We're going to be blaming, at the end of the day, Tony Khan. But with Punk gone from the roster, I doubt that there's going to be as much drama as there already been throughout the past year. You know, we had a lot of drama regarding CM Punk building up to his return. Remember the whole Ace Steel situation? Yeah, that was fucking embarrassing. All the stories with Ryan Nemeth, you name it, the Jack Perry incident, CM Punk was suspended twice in the current duration of his contract. That alone is fucking ridiculous. Now Punk has been officially terminated. How is AEW going to look without CM Punk? I'm going to say this right here and right now. Mark my words. AEW will survive without CM Punk. Because they've survived without him before, they survived him without him again, and they will survive without him once again without CM Punk. They survived without him twice. When the company first started, people need to understand, you know, I hear a lot of these people on the internet that are so fucking stupid. They say the same thing about WWE, like, oh, I'm not going to watch WWE anymore because Vince McMahon is in charge. Bro, you're still going to watch the product because you have nothing to do with your life. Shut the fuck up. I say the same thing with these people saying, oh, I'm not going to watch AEW anymore because CM Punk is not on the show. I ask myself this. Did you even know that AEW was a thing before CM Punk came in? Before CM Punk came in, AEW was super successful. If anything, they were the best company to really handle themselves during the pandemic. You never heard a fucking peep of drama before CM Punk came into the company. Maybe you would hear like one thing. I believe the Big Swole situation comes to mind. But again, you didn't really hear a shit ton of drama coming from the company before CM Punk came in. And now with CM Punk coming in a year later, all this shit is spewing out. You know, at the end of the day, everybody has a part to blame in this situation. Not just one person. Even though CM Punk 90% of the time was definitely in the wrong, those other roles play a part with the Elite, Tony Khan, Jack Perry, all the people that had issues with CM Punk at the end of the day. And that is just the cold hard facts. At the end of the day, this was everybody's fault. But I will commend Tony Khan for at least having the balls to make the decision that he needed to make. These are the types of the decisions that you unfortunately have to make as a promoter. Vince McMahon made those types of decisions back in the mid-90s. Hell, in 1997, WWE was in a crazy fucking position. They were not number one, and they had internal drama between Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. They had the Montreal thing go down, and what happened is the rest is history. But still, you know, promoters deal with these types of issues all the time. How many times has Dana White, you know, made a lot of difficult decisions in the UFC? A lot. And with Tony Khan, this is one of those difficult decisions. But I genuinely believe at the end of the day, it's beneficial for everybody, and it's beneficial for the locker room at the end of the day. That is just me. But those are my thoughts on CM Punk and the crazy-ass drama that is going on in All Elite Wrestling and the termination of CM Punk. Overall, man, it's very shocking. Again, as a fan, I hate the idea, but unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with that situation and deal with the fact that Tony Khan unfortunately made the right decision because, again, CM Punk himself was causing all of these problems. If you think about it, CM Punk, you know, even though he was talking shit about all these people because they were doing him wrong by going into business for themselves, blah, 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 Punk did the exact same thing, and he really looks like a hypocrite because of it at the end of the day. I'm not saying that it's all Punk's fault, because everybody has a part to blame in this whole situation, but Punk's actions immediately turned him in the wrong at the end of the day, and unfortunately, he was rightfully terminated. That's just the cold, hard truth at the end of the day, and that is that. But yeah, that was my WrestleHavoc Podcast Extra on the termination of CM Punk. Of course, be on the lookout later on right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast for the AEW All Out review. Yes, I'm going to be covering All Out 2023, in which we will have Konosuke Takeshita taking on Kenny Omega. We got Bryan Danielson replacing CM Punk against Ricky Starks. Yes, Bryan Danielson is officially back from his injury. And, of course, we got the International Championship match between Orange Cassidy and Jon Moxley. So we're going to be talking about that much more in the All Out review later on tonight or tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that review. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the Squared Circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. Peace.